Hey, all right. Today we are going to talk about how to write a book review. Now, you've read a book, you've seen a book, you have opinions on books. Fantastic. That's definitely where you want to start. When you're writing a book review, though, you want to think about it in kind of a structured way because the point there is to help the person reading it to make a good decision. Should I read this? Should I not read this? Will I like it? Is this useful? This is your job to help them make that happen. So first step, and I know this seems like it should be obvious, you have to read the book you're talking about. This is definitely going to be important if you're writing or you're reading books like in the thriller field. So you get to the very end and whammo, there was a big twist on the last page. And if you didn't read it, then you kind of look silly for giving an incorrect review. So make sure that you are, reading it, that you feel comfortable with it, at least skim through everything. If it's a really long book, a really long nonfiction, it's not necessary to read every single word, but you do want to be familiar with it, like the contents of every chapter. That'll be enough. So where do we start? As you're getting ready to write, take some notes. I find this really helpful, and either, on paper in front of you or start typing some notes wherever you do it. The notes that I always start with are things like get the title down, get the whole title, including the subtitle if there is one. It helps. It helps to reduce confusion. Include the author and make sure you spell the author's last name correctly. That's important. You don't want to be rude. Um, and you also want to talk about the genre. So, by reading this title, maybe I don't know, is this, or even a brief description, maybe I don't know, is this fiction? Is this nonfiction? Did this actually happen? Is this history? Is it science? Just tell us. Just say it. That'll be easier for your reader. Okay, now the next thing you want to talk about are your characters. So let's assume that this is a fiction book that you're talking about. And in that, then start as you're reading through it, just jot people down. Just again, you're adding to those little notes. You don't have to do any big writing yet. You've got some notes to work with. So who's your main character? What makes them the main character? There's always a main bad guy. So who is the adversary? And get that written down. But in a good fiction book, there will be a host of maybe ancillary supporting characters, people who kind of stand around, but they participate. And I will say the books that I enjoy the most have really strong characters. They've got really interesting people who are there. So just take a little note on that and say, oh, yeah, that was good. That was good. Or how come this book takes place with these two people standing in a blank room all by themselves? I mean, that could be interesting, but it would be unusual. All right, thinking about your main idea. So what is the book really trying to get across? And this goes across fiction and nonfiction. So in a fiction book, it might be, and then Agatha Christie walked into the room and discovered a murder and said, Gadzooks, I will solve this murder. There you go. That's your main idea. If you're reading a book about science or you're reading a book about welding, I mean, science or welding, those are your main ideas. But maybe this is a history of welding. Maybe this is a history of welding design. Maybe this is, looking at a very specific area of genetics in science and the cutting edge research. So just have that concept and be ready to, again, say that pretty clearly. So jot a few notes down as you're going through the book. When you get to the end, all of these notes will help you to really write quickly, well. As we're getting to the writing stage, think about who are you addressing this to? Now, yeah, I mean, you're here, you're a student, you're doing this because your teacher told you to do it. Cool, no problem there. But think about where you would write book reviews later. So, I mean, maybe you're on Goodreads. Maybe you are in a profession where people are sending you books and you're being asked to share your opinion on them. It would be really good to have some book review skills, and that could be literally across every profession. So think about who are you talking to? Are you talking to somebody who's like, yes, I love thrillers, Agatha Christie books, can't get enough of her as a main character and as a writer. She is both. Um, that's cool. Or maybe you're writing this to somebody who's like, I mean, If I had to read a book, I mean, I guess tell me about this Agatha Christie thing. Um, that you're going to phrase things differently. You're going to talk differently. Likewise, I mean, are you writing to adults? Are you writing to students? Is this for little kids? Yeah, book reviews can be for anybody. Uh, just make sure you've identified for yourself who are you aiming this at. Be organized. So, with any kind of writing, you always want to have an outline. Start with number one, introduction. Talk about what you're going to talk about. Number two, make a point. Number three, make a point. Number four, make a point. Number five, conclusion. Wrap it all up. This is all the important stuff I talked about. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. That's your conclusion. Don't use those exact words, but that's the idea. And as you're writing through a book review, now these don't have to be terribly long, a couple of pages, 700, 800 words. I mean, do what your instructor obviously tells you to in your assignment, but just sort of in general, as you're thinking about them, you want them to have enough information that people can make a good decision, but you don't have to go on and on. It's fine. When you're giving your opinion, you want to give a complete opinion. So, of course, we all know the internet. You've been there. It's always easy to just say, ugh, it was awful, hated it, blah. Can't believe this author is even allowed to write things down on paper. Terrible. Maybe, but that can't possibly be the complete picture. So whether you like the book or not, talk about, what were the table of contents like? What were the chapters like? Were there illustrations included? Did you have diagrams? Those could be really helpful. Or there were pages and pages and pages of content. And I mean, a diagram would have been really helpful. You could have just said this mountain range right here. That would have been great. So think about making it a very complete look at the book. You mention in a fiction book, again, who this is aimed for. I mean, even if your review is aimed at adults, mention, and this is a young adult book. A lot of young adult books, very good. Have some sort of, I guess, just an overview of what's happening in the book, and that will really help you to be seen as not a biased reader, not coming in like, I had to read this book on basketball and I hate basketball. I would never watch basketball, so I hate this book. Well, that wasn't the book for you. You write about the book that you're reading, not the book you wish you were reading or the book that you're sad you had to read because someone forced you. You write about this book. And there's a lot of mean things in the world. Don't contribute to that. Do not be mean as you are writing, even if you didn't like the book. And it's valid. Not every book is good. I'm a librarian. Not every book is good. I will tell you. And even books that are good, I don't like them all. It's fine. You don't have to, but be thoughtful in the way that you express that. So you're not just being a jerk, because nobody's interested in that. All right. If you have more questions, obviously go to your instructor, but also feel free to stop by here at the library. I'm Mary, your librarian, and I will be happy to help you with all of your book review needs. Thanks. Bye-bye.